Hey, this is Joel from Unleash Your Tennis. In this lesson, I'll be sharing with you how to improve your tennis serve speed, what are the common mistakes, and what are the things that we should work on. Keep on watching. First, cover the most basic ground first. The first tip that you need to know is to hold on to the continental grip for your serve. If you are holding on to the eastern forehand grip, then it is very difficult for you to improve your serve speed. When we use the continental grip, we have the flexibility to create the different kinds of spins that we want on the serve. And gradually, as we advance further and further, it is also easier for us to improve the serve speed. Alright? So the first tip that you need to know is to use the correct grip, which is the continental grip. Next, let's talk about the throwing technique in general. Now, in tennis, we always say that the serve is a throwing action. So let me demonstrate a few throws and let's analyze the throwing technique and see how we can transfer the good stuff into the tennis serve. You'll be watching from the back view, the side view, as well as the front view. Then I'll talk about what are the things to take note of. Now, the task that I'm going to perform is to throw this tennis ball as far as possible without any specific target. Okay, and the throwing technique must be an overhead throw. So let's analyze and see what are the things that we can learn. Now, what do you notice about the throwing technique? First thing, did you notice that I actually turn the body before I release the ball? Now, when I'm thinking of throwing the ball as far as possible, my first instinct was to wind up my body and try to store energy so that I can transfer the energy onto my throw. Think of it like a spring. I want to wind up the spring so that I can unwind and release the power onto the ball. So that's the first thing, the winding of the body. So the first suggestion for you is to learn how to wind up the body. Now, one good tip is when you serve, you may want to place your racket and ball together this way, either side by side, or some people prefer it to have the racket on top of the ball, and then move as a unit. Okay, so racket and ball together, and you move together as a unit. Alright, so this way. Try not to have the racket and ball separated right from the start like this. You will find that some people may not wind up the body if you just start this way. So the good tip is have the racket and ball together at the start of the serve. Next, did you observe that my elbow was up this way before I go overhead and release the ball? Now, this is a common mistake that I observe among tennis players. When they serve, their elbow tend to be tucked in here, and it's very hard for them to throw the racket upwards and hit the ball fast. Okay, if you observe baseball pitchers, the best baseball pitchers tend to have this posture. Alright, then they tend to have this posture before they pitch the ball. So take note of the elbow here. It should be raised up and not tucked in. So raise up the elbow before you serve. Now, the thing for you to work on this is you can start with a half serve position. That means you want to place your racket up here and your elbow will be the checkpoint. And then from here, you serve a couple of balls. At the start, you don't have to aim inside the service box. You can simply just feel the relaxed swing and hit through the ball. Okay? So I'm going to demonstrate a few. I'm going to hit the ball towards the fence instead because I want to feel the relaxation. So I do a half serve, I raise up my elbow and start this way, okay? Just as relaxed as possible. Okay, from here, half serve. Then gradually, when you move into the full serve, then you have this feeling, the sensation of the elbow coming up nicely before you execute the serve. Next, did you notice that my body was leaning into the court after I released the ball? Now, if you are throwing properly, you'll find that your weight transfer will be from the back, and then after you release the ball, the weight will be transferred to the front. So naturally, the body will lean into the court. Okay? Now, to work on this, simply work on your toss. Now, when you are tossing for the serve, we want to toss the ball inside the court. That means if you toss the ball up and let it drop, it should be landing inside the baseline. If the toss is outside the baseline, then there's no momentum for you to go forward. So always think of tossing the ball inside. All right? As I'm turning, I'm actually going to toss the ball inwards, going inwards. All right? By doing this, then when you serve, you have the momentum to get into the court. And you're able to transfer your weight onto the ball. So far, so good. Now, let me recap the first few points that I mentioned. First thing, continental grip. Next, we can prepare the racket and the ball together before we serve. And this will help us to wind up the body, have this body turn. And then check the elbow, make sure it's up. And then the next thing is, we want to toss the ball inside the court. Okay? Now, if you observe the two serves that I did, after I hit the ball, I have the natural tendency to get into the court. That's because of the momentum shift. All right, I'm transferring my weight from the back to the front. That's why my body will be going into the court. If you have gotten any value so far, do hit the like button. And in return, I'll give you one bonus tip. Let's talk a little bit about the tossing hand. What happens to the tossing hand after you release the ball? Where does it go? Some players think that after they serve, the tossing hand goes behind. All right, or if from this angle, the tossing hand goes right behind here. Okay, now that's of course true when you see slow motion video of maybe Federer's serve or Andy Murray's serve. Their racket and tossing hand tend to be ending here. But the subtle nuances during the serve itself is that when you toss the ball, all right, after you release the ball, the tossing hand actually comes down and comes here, somewhere close to the body, as you go up and strike the ball. Okay? Now, the actual movement actually looks like this. After you toss the ball, and you reaching up, this hand actually comes down and land around here and comes here. And the reason is for this to happen is because it has to come here to stop the body rotation, and your hand is able to accelerate forward. If you are going this way, if your hand is going this way, the racket hand actually finds it hard to accelerate. So that's why naturally the tossing hand actually comes down, comes to the body so that this racket hand can accelerate upwards. Okay? Now, if you watch again in a slow motion, you'll find this action. towards the end, then the two hands will come back here. This is how it ends. But during the process of the serve, you'll find that tossing hand actually comes to the body to stop the body from rotating. Wrapping up, I cover the key points to improve your tennis serve speed. So first thing, to have the continental grip ready before you serve. Next, you want to coil the body this way before you serve, and then check the elbow, make sure it's not tucked in, it's raised up here, and then you toss the ball inwards so that you have this weight transfer for you to transfer energy towards the ball. And lastly, you take note of the tossing hand and see where does it go during your serve phase. Alright, now the best part is for you to video your own serve, analyze your own serve, maybe put it in slow motion and have different checkpoints for you to check on. Once again, if you find this video useful and applicable to your tennis lesson, do hit the like button and subscribe to Unleash Your Tennis channel. That's all from me today. Until next time, happy playing!